And then in the second innings, you can't. That's probably the hardest time to bat you could possibly imagine. You've been in the field the entire day in the hot sun, getting demoralized, and then you have to come out to bat knowing that your career, not your career, but you know what I mean, your spot on the team's on the line, and you've got to face Bumrah with 5-10 minutes left of play in the day. That is probably, if you have to like create the scenario of the worst time to come in and bat, I think that would be it.
100%. The opener, well, McSweeney gets out cheaply, and then you have your captain come in to be the night watchman. Yep. He goes.
Yep.
You're coming in at number 4 within like when you come in the fourth over.
Still a new ball. You got Bumrah fresh. Yeah. India just full of confidence. You're tired because you've been in the sun all day.
Yeah. Like, well, what do you expect from someone that obviously he's had this decline in performance right now? But I mean, you're looking at the situation that he's in right now. How do you think he's going to succeed in that?
Maybe we should just like start it just by like talking.
We can.
Just like
just straight into it.
And that's the start. Welcome. We're trying new things out, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I feel like the welcome in. I don't know. It feels too
stagey.
You're trying too hard. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, we're just here chatting about sport. You know, we're not on Fox League. You know, doing a show.
Trying to be.
Yeah. Are we though? You know, we're just here just chatting, just a place for people to talk about sport. You know, we're not professionals here. We're just amateur sport watchers who just enjoy watching sport from all over the world. And
listen in, drop your opinions, and you know, talk shit to us.
There's no need to be too structured, organised, perfect. You know, it's just sit and chat.
That's not us.
No, not at all. Just sit and chat, and then just see what happens. So
I love it.
Let's get going.
Let's do it. I mean, pretty decent weekend of sports, I would say, overall. I mean, well, we're going to go through NFL games today. We saw some blowouts and we saw some dogs get up. I mean, the cricket going on right now. We don't want to touch on it, but we're probably going to have to. What else? F1, Las Vegas.
Max Verstappen, championship crown.
Champion crowned. EPL.
Yeah.
One big result. The ladder grows further.
Yep.
So that's some cool stuff to talk about.
Nothing crazy. No, nothing earth-shattering, but just another weekend in the sports world where results ticked over. Sort of most things are in the middle. I mean, the cricket's probably the biggest, for Australia anyway, it's probably the biggest news event will be in sport, I think, for the next few days, especially for the next week, will be the build-up to the second test with the cricket. There's not too much going on in Australia in terms of sport, so the cricket's going to dominate headlines, which is why, as we've spoken about before, if the Australian team, especially the batters, struggle, it's going to be heightened just because of the lack of sport that's currently on the menu.
Yeah.
The journos are just going to be craving anything, just sink their teeth into whatever they can get their hands on. So
100%.
with the Australian cricket team not just losing but getting spanked.
They have to write about something, correct?
And now it's just ripe for the taking now. So we can be expecting the back pages, majority of the sports shows, Fox News, it'll all be Fox Sports News, will all be talking about what's wrong with the Australian cricket team, what changes need to be made, who needs to be dropped, do we shuffle the lineup around? You know, every journo's favourite topic of conversation.
Yeah, you need some thick skin to be in the Australian cricket team right now, I think.
Yeah, it's
going to be a bloodbath out there this week.
The thing with the Australian summer, it's like the 5 test matches are really all that matters, right? If you win your first test, everyone's singing your praises. You lose, feels like the walls are caving in. You know, it's such a big deal that what you did last year or 6 months ago just doesn't matter. You know, we're the World Test champions, probably the best test team in the world since Pat Cummins has taken over as captain. You lose one game at home and all of a sudden you need to change your whole lineup. Everything's broken. You're the worst team. India's the best cricket team in the world. They just lost a 3-0 series at home to New Zealand. And now all of a sudden it's like, I heard someone on the Channel 7 broadcast going, are they the best test team in the world at the moment? I'm like, 2 weeks ago, you would have said, obviously not. They just lost at home 3-0. They win one test match because our batters just couldn't fire.
It's so much just like recency bias
100%.
in like a lot of those like cricket takes, I think, and we're going to get into it. We can start there if you want, but
I mean, we kind of already are, but I think that's the recency bias comes into it because cricket gets its standalone spot in the Australian sports calendar, where it's the only thing on during the summer.
Yeah.
So it's the topic of conversation, and everything gets so much extra emphasis because is standalone. It's not competing with the NRL, the AFL, anything else.
Yeah.
It's its own. So whatever happens gets talked about, it gets magnified, which is why it's such a bad time to be a batter under pressure, because you're going to cop it left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
And it's just going to keep piling on and piling on. And especially a bit of a break. What did we say? How many days till the next one? You said it was
it's
do you remember the date you said?
The 6th of December. So how long is that? 2 weeks?
It's like way too long for the team.
Yeah.
They're just going to want to start that next match and try to get the monkey off their back.
Yeah.
But the fact that they've got to wait so long now just gives the journos more time to talk about what needs to change. I don't know when the Big Bash starts, but you'd hope that doesn't start before then, because...
Nah, Big Bash is always around like 15th, 18th of
okay,
December.
well, that's good because...
Yeah.
I said, because what happens, because there's so much junk time on the TV at the moment, because the game's already done, right? So the commentators are just filling in time. They don't know what to talk about. So the easy low-hanging fruit is, what's wrong with the batting? Does Marnus need to get dropped?
Yeah.
Do we need to shift things around? I said, it's just, as you said, when you look at it in a vacuum of this one game's the only thing that matters, well, yeah, maybe some changes need to be made. But when you look at it holistically, this has been a team the nucleus of the team has been the same for years now. It's been dominant. It's been winning nearly everything it can. Yeah. Yes, it lost one match and the batting has been very poor. But to change it now is just not what got the Australian team here. We stick with our team. You stay with it. And yes, if someone needs to be, think of how big David Warner's slump was. He had a test slump for years where he just couldn't get going.
Yeah.
But you stick with him, and he had a few good innings by the end, and we kept winning. So I think you've got to stick with Marnus. The counter argument to that is that Marnus has had like a declining average year on year. Like he started up when he first came to the team with a 60 plus average, and then the next year was a 50 average, and then in the 30s, 40. And now it's in the 20s.
Yeah.
So the argument is that he's on the decline. So I heard that someone of the journos during the broadcast said, when you add the extra context, it's not just this game. You're talking about 2 years worth of like an average of 30. So it's not too hasty to say that there's a problem there. But the point is, he was picked for this series. They thought he was one of the best batters for the series. Yeah. And I think you just got to stick with him. At least for the second game, minimum. But of course, as I said, journos have different incentives. Their incentives is to get things to write about, topic of conversation. And at the end of the day, it's an easy topic of conversation because he has struggled so much, and it's obvious. Yeah. He struggles, like, first innings, 2 for 50? Just... It's like the worst of both worlds, right? Where you're taking time at the crease and just looking like every ball you're about to get out. Yeah. And then in the second innings, you can't... That's probably the hardest time to bat you could possibly imagine. You've been in the field the entire day in the hot sun, getting demoralised. And then you have to come out to bat knowing that your career... Not your career, but you know what I mean? Your spot on the team's on the line. Yeah. And you've got to face Bumrah with 5-10 minutes left of play in the day. That is probably... If you have to create the scenario of the worst time to come in and bat, I think that would be it.
100%. The opener... Well, McSweeney gets out cheaply, and then you have your captain come in to be the night watchman. Yep. He goes. Yep. You're coming in at number 4 within when you come in the fourth over. Still
a new ball. You got Bumrah fresh. Yeah. India just full of confidence. You're tired because you've been in the sun all day.
Yeah. What do you expect from someone that obviously he's had this decline in performance right now? But I mean, you're looking at the situation that he's in right now. How do you think he's going to succeed in that?
Yeah, exactly. You have to take that second innings with a grain of salt. Obviously, when you have a bias, like when you're trying to prove your point that he has been declining, that his time's up, he needs to go. Well, yes, the second innings fits very neatly in that he got out cheaply. It was another one where he left the ball. He's clearly not playing with confidence. Yeah. But when you look at that innings in the context of the game, not in like this 2-year bubble, when you look at it just in the context of the game, many batters would have got out in that situation. And if you add on to the fact that Marnus is clearly low on confidence, clearly feeling the pressure, that was just such a difficult situation to be in.
Yeah.
If I'm the Australian selectors, I'm sticking with him. I'm sticking with Marnus.
Yeah.
I think outside of just him as an individual, the team has proven enough over the last 2 years that they deserve some grace. To lose a game badly, this is probably the worst game they've lost in that, since Pat Cummins has been captain, I'd say. This has probably been Pat Cummins' worst captaincy or team performance since he's been captain. Everyone in the team deserves the grace to fight back and to come back from it. In 1 or 2 test matches from now, if Labuschagne is still struggling and can't get runs, I'll accept the argument and maybe a change needs to be made. Yeah. But as to right now, I think it's too hasty. That you definitely can make the argument that you can replace him now, but I think he deserves more time. The team deserves more time to get it right. And it's not just Marnus that's struggling. It's the other batters too. I mean, McSweeney had a poor debut. We said that early. That was a worry coming into your first game facing Bumrah with a new ball. that's as tough as it gets.
Yeah.
Steve Smith hasn't looked great. Kawaja got out cheaply on both goes. It's not just a Marnus problem. It's clearly a top order problem,
100%.
which we've had for a few years now, but our lower order, Head, Marsh, Cummins, Carey, have been able to bail us out. This is not a new phenomenon. So just blaming it on Labuschagne, I think, is cheap and easy, and he deserves, just like the whole batting lineup, deserves a few more games to get this right. And if they don't, well, then we can start having the conversation. But doing it right now, I think, is way too quick.
100%. Like, just to add on to that, like, who do they want to bring in? So you got Josh Inglis. Obviously, he's the 13th sort of man on the squad, a batter that can come in. Anyone else that's playing high quality Sheffield Shield cricket at the moment, I can't think of anyone.
There's no batters waiting in the wings.
No.
Yet.
So, like, I'm with you on this one. I would stick with him for the second test. Their argument now is we make this change, we're going to be a completely different team. So stick with him the second test. There's still another 3 games to go to try and win the series. See what happens in Adelaide. But even then, it's not even... Struggling the bat's one thing. He's still going on the field. He's in a key position where he's working on the ball for the bowlers. He's giving chatter. You can tell in the commentary he's still chatting, still trying to bring morale.
Yeah, he's great in the field.
Like, even though he's... Morale batting and confidence batting's at an all-time low, he's still trying to bring that energy in the field, which is... You don't see it a lot. Like, you probably... People that you sort of think about is Mike Hussey, Andrew Simons, Mark Waugh. I'll probably say they brought the energy in the field, not just with their talent in the field, but through their communication and stuff like that. So I feel like, yeah, it's hard to sort of give him that leg out when there's so much more to a cricket player that you need in a team than
he offers a lot
just to score runs.
The thing is as well is, as you said, there's no one waiting in the wings who's just has impeccable form, who's just knocking on the door. And the thing is, if you don't have that form coming in, like, you're not playing so well in domestic competitions where you feel like I deserve a spot, I'm ready for this, I'm up for it, you're going to be coming in feeling like, not that you haven't earned it, but you're coming in as a bit of a replacement, and that means the pressure is going to be on you to perform. It's not like you're just already up
against an attack that's at an all-time high in confidence.
That's what we're saying with Nick Sweeney, like how difficult it is for him to come into a new attack like that.
It doesn't help when your partner's putting you on strike.
Yeah, I know. The thing that's also another point with Labuschagne is, I feel like the openers. I would love to know the stat of what our biggest opening partnership is over the last 2 years. Yeah. For my memory, Labuschagne is within the first 10 overs nearly every innings. Yeah. Like, maybe Kawaja has a big innings, or maybe Warner back would have a big innings. But the two of them together, like what India's first opening partnership was, which basically won the game, right? The Jaiswal and KL Rahul partnership won the game for India.
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time Australia had that. When was the last time Australia was 0 for anything in like I have a memory of us doing that when we had like a short chase. Like, if we're chasing like 110, they might have gone for over 80 or something. Yeah. But when we done that in a case like where India did it, where the game's in the balance, second innings, or like the start of the first innings, where this is where it really matters. I don't think we've been able to put up a big opening partnership, which then puts your number 3 under a lot of pressure. And when he's already having mental struggles with his game, his technique, his sort of attacking mindset, very defensive, to have to come in so early, that just piles on, makes it more difficult. Like you saw, I think the value of having an opening partnership that can just absorb at least 10, 20 overs is so valuable in cricket. And Australia haven't been able to do that, which has been exposing Labuschagne. He's basically having to be an opener, and it's been difficult for him. So, and the thing is, as we keep talking about, in cricket, it's such a mental game. And you can tell when he comes out, he's in knots. He's trying to leave the ball as much as he can. Like, you can tell in his mind, he wants to leave the ball. He wants to not nick. He's so scared of nicking off to slips, because I think he's been out by that a fair bit recently. That sort of 4th, 5th stump line. When he plays.
LBW's just been struggling.
Exactly. But what happens then is that he's trying to leave the ball so much that I think he's reacting a bit slow, because his first instinct is, can I leave this? So then when the ball's angling in at the stumps, he's a second or two too slow on microsecond too slow on reacting, and then that's when he's getting trapped. And a bowler like Bumrah is like the worst for Labuschagne right now, because he releases so far forward. your time to react is so much slower compared to any other bowler in the world.
Yeah.
Like that's what Bumrah is the best at. So by the time you've had the chance to decide whether it's going to be fourth or fifth stump line that you can leave, or if it's angling back into the stumps, it's already game over. So I don't think it's a coincidence that Labuschagne's got an out LBW like that.
He's been finding the length as well, where it's like stays low as well, which doesn't help. So
yeah, it's just I think it's also the angle Bumrah bowls at. It's just so different to anyone else, and it's like the worst matchup for Labuschagne right now. Yeah. And obviously Bumrah is their opening bowler, so ideally Labuschagne can come in after Bumrah's first spell, but that would require him to come in 11, over 12, 13, 14. Yeah. But at the moment he's coming in over 4. Bumrah's fresh, probably. Over 4 is like you're warmed up, you're ready to go. That's when you're going to do your best bowling, and he's having to face that straight up. So it's very difficult. And I'm a bit biased. Like I do like Labuschagne. I think he offers a lot in the field. I think he's a good team guy. You can tell he loves the sport. You can tell he works incredibly hard. He's fit. He wants to do well. He wants the team to do well. He just lives and breathes cricket, kind of like Steve Smith. And I just think he's just a good Aussie character. So I like him in the team. So I'm a little biased in that way. Obviously, at the end of the day, you got to score runs. He's in there primarily as a run scorer. So I personally hope they stick with him. I think they will stick with him, especially for the next game. Yeah. But the pressure is on because the vultures are out, the knives are out. They're going to look to get him, and he needs a score. He can't get out for under 10 in the next game. Otherwise, I don't think he'll survive to game 3. There'll just be too much pressure.
Where they usually smell smoke, there's usually fire. So they're just going to be relentless.
Yeah,
depending
100%.
on whatever happens.
And that'll be like, it's such an easy topic because that stat of like, they'll just show that declining average. It's like the data backs it up, and that's, you can't argue with that.
Yeah.
But as I said, in saying that, the Australian team has been winning. It's not as if over the last 2 years, Labuschagne's been stuck in here and the team's been losing. They've been looking awful. The team's been winning and he's been a part of that. Yeah. Yes, he hasn't been scoring heaps of runs, but he contributes, as you said, in the field. He's keeps the energy up. He's good with runouts. I'm sure he's good behind the scenes with doing stuff like that as well. So he's a part of that winning team, and the winning team deserves some grace to stick together and to try to fight their way out of this, because this is their worst loss in a while. To suddenly hit the panic button and change it all after one loss, that's not how winning teams operate. So I think most of this is just media fire, just because they want things to talk about. The coaches, I'm sure, will remain a bit more calm. They will just be more focused on what can we change to do better next game rather than who can we change. Yeah. And hopefully they can put a better performance in. Unfortunately, it's an Adelaide day-night test, which may be the hardest place to bat, I would say, at the moment. I think typically the Gabba and the West Australia used to be the hardest just because of the bounce, especially for opposing teams coming in. But the day-night test in Adelaide, man, that ball moves around.
Yeah, once you bring in like that pink ball.
Oh, jeez, especially different. If you have to bat at night. Like, when you come in at twilight, when you're batting at like 8 o'clock, 7, 8 o'clock, when the sun's setting, that ball moves around like crazy. Imagine facing Bumrah at twilight with a pink ball.
He'll be making a move at least a metre and a half.
Like when you're low on confidence, not wanting to play the ball, I can see Labuschagne getting out LBW so easily there. Hey, so I mean, it doesn't get any easier. So his back's going to be against the wall. He just has to pray that hopefully they can maybe win the toss, bat first, get in the daylight, and the openers can hopefully just not obviously 0 for 180 or whatever it was with the Indian partnership might be a bit much. I think actually it might have been more than that. It might have been 200. Yeah, I think it was the highest opening partnership by Indians in Australia ever. So obviously that's record breaking. You can't expect that, but just something rather than getting in at the 3rd or 4th over just to release a bit of pressure. Yeah, but
completely agree.
Congrats to India. Great performance, Jaiswal. I said
basically flipped the narrative.
I said before the series that Jaiswal, I think he's going to be a star. I think he's excellent in all formats. He's fundamentally good, obviously confident, comes from a good, like a tough upbringing, and that usually builds some steel and some heart. And I think he showed that. You need that in Test cricket. The Indian, as we said earlier, the one thing that India was lacking coming into this was batting confidence. They've now got that. Found it. Kohli got 100. Now he's going to be feeling good. All that media attention about Kohli's past it. Is he out of his prime? Gone.
It's flipped on the Marnus now.
Flipped. And then that's the thing. Marnus is going to have to come out and do what Kohli did and try and get a century to flip that script again. But India, everything's looking great. You got Rohit Sharma and Shubman Gill to come back into the team. So that's going to be interesting to see how they fit those guys in with a winning team that's done well. The bowling has been really good. I mean, whenever any attack led by Bumrah is going to be exceptional, and Mohamed Siraj has showed that he's very good in Australian conditions. I think the pace and the bounce suits his style in Australia, and I remember him in the last series where they came out, he was really good as well. So that is a great opening partnership. I'm very surprised they didn't play with Ashwin. I think they will probably use Ashwin throughout the series. I think he's proven to be very good in Australian conditions. I'm probably worried about the pitch in Western Australia, why they didn't pick him. But to not pick Ashwin and Jadeja, when I saw that, I was like, oh wow, that's so good. Like, as an Aussie, I was happy they didn't pick those guys.
Probably ended up working out for them though. The way the pitch turned out.
I mean, the pace maybe it was a great decision in hindsight. But as an Australian, I'm more worried if I see Jadeja or Ashwin in the team, because Ashwin just has a habit of getting wickets. And Jadeja, man, he's a bad guy to play against. Whenever you feel like you've got India on the ropes, Jadeja comes out and gets an 80 off 90. Actually, not even that. He actually can get like an 80 off 180. That's the thing. Like, he can actually bat time in the lower order, which is really annoying. Usually when you get down to the lower order, you're expecting the guys to sort of swing or not stick around for too long. But he can actually soak up more pressure, and his bowling is obviously top class. Left arm.
You're looking at this team and being like they can get better.
Yeah,
on paper.
That's it. On paper, scary. That's the thing. Right? I heard someone on the broadcast say that it's do you want to make a change? Like, even though it gets better on paper, like Rohit Sharma, Gill, Ashwin, Jadeja, on paper they're better players, but this team just performed. You move KL, Rahul. He's probably overall. Obviously, you had Jaiswal who had the biggest score, but in both innings, like if you combine the two, the best batter was probably Rahul. In that first innings, he was the one that set a little bit of a foundation where he actually soaked up some pressure. No other batter was able to soak up pressure in that first innings apart from Rahul. And then you had in the second innings, he was able to go with Jaiswal, protect that middle order, and then was able to create the partnership. So he was excellent. What do you do? Do you move him to 3? Do you move Rohit Sharma to 3? Do you put Rahul even lower down the order? Do you drop him? I mean, I think the plan before this match would have just been to straight swap Sharma for Rahul, but because he played so well, what do you do now? So they've got some serious things to think about, India, and you want to be careful you don't tinker too much and you ruin the nucleus of the team, because Gill and Sharma come in, it's their first match, so then they got to face the nerves. They won't have that confidence of feeling like they've versed these bowlers before. So it's definitely a risk, but you much prefer to be India right now, wouldn't you, than Australia? Definitely. Being in Australian home conditions, the media's going to be piling on Australia after this loss, because let's be honest, it's a bad loss. They got smacked.
It is, yeah.
They got smacked real bad. Like, this game was over days ago.
Probably makes the next one in Adelaide a must-win as well, because you don't want to go 2-0 down.
It's definitely a must-win. It's definitely a must-win, I would say, for Australia, a game 2.
To try and get that trophy back.
And that's the thing, we got to win the series, right? Because if it's a draw, I think it goes back to India because they won it last time.
Yeah.
And it's at Adelaide, day-night test, when our biggest issue has been batting confidence. That's like the worst. You'd probably prefer an SCG, right? A bit more of a simple track, a bit more better for the batters. Adelaide, day-night, that is, if you're not batting with confidence, I don't think there's many worse tracks in the entire world to have to come out and bat on, which is what Australia will have to do. So they'll have to prove their mettle. And I think people just need to hold the brakes a little bit on the criticism of the team. Because at the end of the day, let's not look at this game in a vacuum. They've been the best test team for the last 2 years. Since Pat Cummins has been in, I said it before, they've been the best test team in the world. So to suddenly throw the book at them after one bad loss, I think that's just way too hasty. Let's give them some time. I trust Cummins. I trust that leadership group. I think the coach McDonald has done an excellent job, and I think they'll bounce back. And I think the next match will be a really good test match.
Yeah, for sure.
And I just hope Labuschagne can do something, because, man...
Let's hope so. Otherwise, it can get ugly.
He will get the knife.
Yeah. I mean, where do we go from there?
Anything else you want to touch on that game, or...?
Not really. No. I'll probably... The only other thing I wanted to add was... I think the bowling can obviously... take a step up as well. It doesn't help when your bowlers are out there batting for most of the time, but that second innings probably wasn't our best.
I think the bowlers were frustrated. They bowl India out for 150. They're thinking, well, what else can you do? That's the perfect job. And then next thing they know, they're out bowling again within 30, 40 overs.
So we talk about Bumrah and how he's going to really love this Adelaide. Like, we've got the paceman that will love this pitch as well.
Probably the best pink ball bowler in the world.
Yeah, we should be able to at least hold our own in the field. I spoke about in the last episode how our fielding was probably the best it's ever been as well, and we saw that take a hit in that second innings. We dropped a lot of chances.
You can just tell the whole mentality of the team is down.
Yeah.
And I heard Josh Hazelwood's press conference after the day yesterday, and they asked him about the batting, and he said, basically summarising here, but he said, I just don't really care. That's up for the batters. Like, I got the gist that he was kind of like a bit annoyed at the batters, and as a bowling, he said, I'm going to go recover, rest, because I think he felt a bit annoyed that the bowlers had to put so much stress on their body just because the batters couldn't do their job.
Yeah.
And, I understand what you're saying, that the bowlers can do better, but I honestly think in that second innings, they bowled really well. I don't think it was like the bowling was bad. They got a lot of plain misses, a lot of edges that fell short, a lot of just that didn't get the edge, that moved too much.
Yeah.
Like, I think you saw that one with Nathan Lyon with Kohli, that was, when he was on like 30 or 40, that spun, like went through the gate, spun over the stumps. Like that just near misses.
It's either falling for you or it's not falling
Yeah,
for
and
you,
it just
those
wasn't
sort of
falling
ones.
for the bowlers.
Yeah.
It's just, you could just tell. And you saw when Stark got that first wicket, how frustrated he was. Like, he wasn't even celebrating. He's like, oh, finally. Like, you could tell that the bowlers just felt like it's just one of those games where they felt like they were doing everything right. They were prepared well. They did everything they were supposed to do. The batters didn't hold up their end of the bargain. And then that second innings just kept snowballing, just near misses. Things weren't falling their way. And it just got to them. But, credit to them. They still hung in there. They put in all the overs, and I think they've proven that they'll be able to come back stronger and have a great day.
At the end of the day, it's a team sport, and you need everyone to be firing. So
it is. It just, you don't want to start seeing those fractures in the team, though, between batter and bowler, and that's why the batters are just going to have to pick it up, especially that top order. It hasn't cost us too much recently because our lower order has saved us. The Head, Marsh, Cummins.
Yep. But
against India, you need your top order to fire up. You can't have your middle order coming in to face a fresh Bumrah. So, yeah, interesting games ahead.
Yeah, definitely.
Be good.
All right, let's make a pivot to today's NFL games.
All right, we're switching to the other side of the world.
Let's do it.
Over to the States.
Oh, yeah. Honestly, I reckon we just go through our picks.
Yeah.
And just talk about them. So, I'm happy to start if you want.
Yeah, go.
So, my first one was, I'll get this one out of the way, but Commanders minus 10.5 against the Cowboys.
I warned you about this one.
Cowboys ended up winning 34-26. The game was just filled with like late drama. I thought I was still in this until about the third quarter. There's obviously the field goal to keep it within the one score. The Commanders keep the Cowboys 3 and out. They then get a 1 yard, 86-yard pass touchdown to, really level the score, but then they miss the PAT. It goes to a kickoff that is a touchdown return. And then so Commanders have the chance to, again, tie it late with a Hail Mary, and they just can't get it there, and it gets intercepted, and game over. But, this game, it's just, I still don't know what to think of it. Like, the difference in both teams was the takeaways and protecting the ball. So you had 0 interceptions for Rush compared to Daniels, who had 2. And then you had 4 sacks for the Cowboys compared to the Commanders that had 1. So there was a lot more, I would say, a lot more protection and a lot more careful handling from the Cowboys side. The Commanders ended up winning the yardage battle. They won the third down conversion battle. But you could probably only look at that saying it's like that fourth quarter where it was the back door. They were trying to cover it and stuff like that. But overall, like losing the possession battle to a Cowboys team that went 2-11 on third down.
That's crazy.
Like that just shows how lack of this Washington offense.
Yeah, they come crashing down to earth.
Yeah. And sorry, Cowboy fans, but I'm not looking at this game as like okay, Cowboys are all right.
Not back, but I look at this game and go, Cooper Rush has steadily improved since the 3 games. I think they're going to be a meddling team. They'll be the favourites against the Giants this week, so they could go back to back.
Yeah.
I think this game for me was divisional game. Cowboys at home, desperate, slowly getting better. Commanders on the downtrend.
Yeah.
To me, honestly just screamed like a chaotic, crazy game, and exactly what it was.
Yeah.
So for me, I would have wanted to have the 10 points rather than swallow the 10 points. But I can see what your reasoning was going into it. You just didn't believe in the Cowboys' offense at all in their running game. Rico Dowell actually was able to get some yards.
And the problems came from Commanders' secondary, which shows why they went out and got our guy, Marshall.
Yeah.
He still hasn't been able to play, but they're just struggling giving up plays like that. Like Rush, he had no interceptions because he was getting the ball out so quickly because these receivers were open. Like they just weren't covering the Cowboys' receivers.
Yeah.
And like when that's happening throughout a full game, it's hard to keep that offense off the field. And keeping your guy Daniels off the field, which doesn't help you get points to win the game and cover by 10.5 points, which is what I had it at. So, yeah, just didn't like that one, but
nah, I said
definitely the bad side.
As soon as you said that one on Saturday, I was like, oh, that's not going to hit.
Yeah. Next one, Buccaneers minus 6.5 against the Giants.
You nailed this one.
This was a good one. So Tampa win 30-7. Overall, pretty good team performance from Tampa. They moved the ball pretty well on offense. They had the addition of Mike Evans, which helped. He had 5 receptions for 68 yards. Mayfield completed passes to 11 different receivers.
Yeah, he went
Not sure if you saw that stat, but which was just insane. They got it after Tommy. He copped 4 sacks. They struggled to keep any possession on offense, which is really what their bread and butter was for this season. They were grinding out games, more so still losing, but at least covering that handicap number that they were getting handed to them, because the offense was staying on the field, converting on third down, keeping the other offense off it. And you just saw in this game, a team like the Bucs with Baker, they can really punish teams with just how offensive heavy and the weapons that they have on there. Like Bucky Irving on the run, obviously Mike Evans catching the ball, and I mean their QB was doing it both in the air and on the ground. He had that 15-yard scramble, I think, for a rushing touchdown that he just looked insane on. So
the biggest factor in this game for me was what you said when the preview of it, that the team seemed like they were annoyed at Jones getting sacked, them going for Tommy Cutlets. That was a third string. Basically shows that the Giants are shutting up shop.
Yeah.
And I just think in an NFL game, as a team, it's a tough sport. It's a violent, vicious sport. And when you get the feeling that your ownership or management is shutting down shops, why am I having to go out and play my hardest, play for my contract, for my future?
Putting my body on the line.
Putting my body and health on the line for clearly no reason at all, right? Yeah. So I think that you saw that. And I think apparently they really like Danny Dimes. Apparently he's a really good... the reason why they signed him is apparently he's a good roster guy. He's a good teammate. So for him to get sacked, as a money thing, because he's got that injury clause in his contract.
Yeah.
So it's really just one of those things where I think the players sort of turned on the organization, and I think the biggest thing the Giants, and that's why I think this week as well the Cowboys are a pick to win at home on Thanksgiving, just because the Giants just seem like a team that's not happy. They're turned on the organization a little bit, and you can understand why. So I think that for me, obviously the Bucs played well, coming off a bye, had their weapons back. Baker played well, but I think they were just versing a team that was just not there. So I don't think it would have mattered who the Giants were versing this week. It was the Panthers. Yeah. Anyone. They would have lost. They weren't there.
Yeah. Really helps the Tampa's playoff chances now, so they're only half a game behind Falcons now.
Yeah, if they start getting healthier.
Yeah, and then looking at the schedule through it, Buccaneers have the easier schedule if you're looking at wins compared to losses. They're only versing 1 out of the 6 teams with a winning record, compared to Falcons, who have 3. So it can really be a bit interesting coming towards the end of the year.
The Bucs-Falcons game will probably be the biggest one there.
Yeah.
That'll decide it for me.
Yeah. And then my next one, Broncos minus 5.5 versus the Raiders. Broncos won 29-19, so I get the cover there. I mean, this game had a total of 9 field goals. So both teams were struggling to... convert their third downs, at least in the red zone as well. Raiders went 1 for 5 in the red zone possessions, which just doesn't help. No. I ended up sweating out this line towards the very end because the Raiders are marching down the field on the last drive, and Denver ended up getting a stop on their own 10-yard line to cover the number.
So it was a bit of a not lucky, but it's definitely one that could have gone either way for sure. Yep. In the end.
Another one I had was, or what we both had was Cardinals minus half a point. Seahawks ended up winning that 16-6, a total of 22 points.
Weird game.
On just so weird. I mean, filled with, it didn't look like any offense sort of played well. Cardinals definitely didn't play well. They couldn't get a touchdown. They found nothing on the run. They couldn't convert on third down. They threw away an interception that went for a pick six. That doesn't help. I don't know where I come from that game for either team, because earlier for Cardinals I was like, they're pretty inconsistent. They have, what was it, 3 or 4 games pretty good back to back that they won.
4 games, I think.
4 games. So they were showing their class, definitely in offense as well. Like, they've got some pretty good weapons there, and they just couldn't get anything going. Which, obviously we bet both on Cardinals, so we didn't see any of that happening. But they just couldn't. They didn't have an answer at all against this Seahawks team, and yeah, I seriously, I don't know where I come from after this game. Like, it was just so bizarre.
Yeah, I think it's just one weird one. Just divisional game sometimes happens.
Yeah. And then the last one was Eagles minus 2.5 against the Rams, the primetime game today. Philly went down early, but once they went down, they were pretty dominant throughout the rest of the game, both in the air and on the ground. Saquon 250-plus rushing yards with 2 TDs. He's looking like an absolute steal from a divisional opponent, which is crazy to think about. Like, the Giants sort of let that up.
2 different positions, the Giants and the Eagles.
Absolutely crazy. Eagles are just looking like one of those complete teams at the moment on both sides of the ball. We spoke about it in that last episode. We thought Philly and Detroit are definitely those top 2, and both teams this week showed why. The Rams were relying on the run a little bit too much at the start. They found some success there, but once you're playing from behind, you can't really go for the run. You need to start passing on teams, and they just weren't getting the completions. Puka and Cup weren't finding any, I guess, receptions. They're probably getting targeted.
The Eagles pass rush really was able to come home once they knew they were going to pass the ball.
Yeah. So
a lot of negative yardage plays for the Rams. I think they had a few penalties too. Just the Rams looked really good early for me. I thought the first quarter their offense looked on. Obviously Puka fumbled early, but they looked on for me, and I thought, wow, there's going to be a shootout.
Yeah.
And as the game went on, it just seemed like the Rams offense started to stall, and the Eagles offense just kept doing what they were doing, and that was it.
By the time it came to the fourth quarter, like, they still hadn't had a single third down conversion.
Wow.
Which is crazy. So that ends up being a pretty cruisy cover in that one, and so that puts me 3-2 on the week, where I wasn't looking too confident.
Yeah, you were worried about this week, so you'll take a 3-2.
I was pretty confident, so I will take a 3-2.
Nice. Well, yeah. Well, I had the obviously Cardinals with like you.
Yeah.
We did mention this when we picked the Cardinals, that this game was always looming, that the roller coaster was always going to have to come down eventually, and this was a vicious one. Yeah. 2 times, twice this year that the Cardinals have screwed me. I bet on them, I think, week 3 after they started hot, and then they had that week 3 game where they just absolutely did the same thing. They scored like 6 points and got blown out.
Yeah.
They did the same this week, where they, for whatever reason, they just hit a wall, and that's it. They just seem to just not man anything. They had missed field goals, interceptions, pick 6, just...
Especially coming off a bye. Like, we didn't even mention that. They had
a whole coming off a bye, you're coming off a win streak. Everything's looking good, and maybe that was the sign that we should have faded them, because it seems like as soon as all the stars are aligned, that seems to be when they let you down the most.
Take a little back step.
But it looked like, all the trends, it's one of those ones in hindsight you can't regret, but now it's just, it's just one of those teams where, man, whenever you back them, it's just like, you just have no confidence in them.
Yeah.
The other one, Colts +7. Wasn't super confident when I picked it. Betting against the Lions is never good. Unfortunately, the Colts just could not get anything in the red zone. Just had to settle for field goals, and you can't settle for field goals against a team like Detroit.
Yeah.
Richardson just missed too many easy throws. Just outclassed, really.
Jonathan Taylor had like his lowest rushing.
Yeah, that's the thing. I wasn't expecting him to have a big game, just because, as you said, the Lions have great run defense. But I kind of needed Richardson to make the throws, and he just couldn't make them. Yeah. Especially around the end zone, and that was basically the difference.
Yeah.
Probably a silly bet in hindsight, just because the Lions are playing so well right now, because they're so physical. They can travel anywhere. You expect a lot of teams to have letdown spots. Yeah. But because the Lions are so physical and they're well coached in that physical mentality, no matter who they're versing, they're still up for it. So they were able to match the Colts.
Yeah.
What was another one I had?
Panthers,
yeah, that one was an auto play
plus
for me.
+11.5.
Whenever you take the Colts, whenever you take the Chiefs at a big number, just fade them. As you said earlier that you think Mahomes coming off a loss, they're going to be ready to bounce. It's like, that's just not who they are anymore. They can't smash teams. Like they are just a close. They're just a team that wins close now, and no matter how much we try to convince ourselves that it's Mahomes, that they're the Chiefs' offense, that they're going to be the high-flying offense of the Tyreek Hill days, eventually people are going to have to come around to the fact that that's just not who they are anymore. Their defense didn't even play that well. That's 2 weeks in a row they didn't play well, so that's a bit of concern for Kansas City.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, and to be fair, the Panthers played pretty well. Bryce Young had a pretty good game.
Yeah.
They were able to do what they needed to do to keep it close, and they finished with a wet sail and almost got there in the end. But
unfortunately, they left a minute and 40 seconds on the clock for Mahomes to go down.
That's what the Chiefs do. That's how they win. But I will continue for the rest of this year, and until I get any evidence to the contrary, fade the Chiefs whenever they are
It's paying dividends at the moment, that trend, and
easy money, really.
Coming up this next week as well.
Yeah, well, we'll have to get into that later on. But and
Bears plus 3.5.
Yeah, Bears plus 3. This was kind of lucky, I think, to cover this one. This is one of those ones where it's just a crazy game. Came back from the jaws of defeat. I don't know how Caleb was able to suddenly figure out the defense, but he was able to come back. And obviously, I didn't watch this game, but from what I've heard, it was just one of those crazy divisional games. Seems like a lot of those games today, the divisional ones, it was nuts. A lot of just things outside the script. Just one of those weeks where just throw all trends and stats out the window and just use that fourth quarter hit. Just anything can happen.
100%.
So this was one where it fell on the 3. Obviously, so 3.5 was massive. It sat on 3.5 the entire week. It didn't budge. I didn't trust the Vikings offense. They obviously did better than I thought they were. I thought it'd be a lower scoring game than it was. And Bears fans, anyone who bet on the Bears to win outright would be disappointed with what Caleb did in overtime. Sam Darnold outplayed him in overtime.
Yeah.
But we got the cover, and I'll walk away with a sort of wipe the sweat off my brow on that one, because I don't think that was definitely a lucky one. Definitely get out of jail free card, that one.
They blew 11 points in the final 22 seconds of regulation. So
that's ridiculous.
Absolutely ridiculous.
And my other one, I've obviously got the last one tomorrow. I'm Ravens minus 2.5. It's kind of like similar to me. Similar to me with the Chiefs, where you just fade them. If they're anything above a 7, you fade them. Yep. Ravens off a loss, bet on them. Obviously, it's scary against the Chargers, who are riding high, but I think they're due a loss, and I think the Ravens are going to come out firing tomorrow. And it's one of those things. I feel like people get stuck in their ways on betting whatever works for them. They stick with, and Ravens off a loss Lamar more specifically off a loss has been very profitable, so I'll stick with that.
Hopefully the secondary can perform a bit better, because that's probably the only way the Chargers will find some success. So
I'm hoping they can. Lamar comes out hot early, gets a bit of a lead on the Chargers, makes them have to throw it, and then hopefully the Ravens secondary can pull their finger out and actually. I'm a bit worried about a backdoor, if they're up. If they're up big, I can definitely see the Chargers, Herbert just letting it loose late and starting to come back into it. Yeah. But because it's 2.5, that gives me a bit more confidence. So as long as it doesn't land on the 1 or the 2, I could easily see this landing on 3, 4, 5. So it could be a close one, but no, I'm still pretty confident with the Ravens.
Yeah.
I just wish I put the Titans in. I wish I switched the Colts to the Titans. That would be the one I want to pick.
We can touch on that a little bit. The Texans is just...
Yeah, well, the Texans are just...
Not looking good at all.
No, inflated by being in a poor division, riding high from last year, and if you just take them on this year only, they're looking like a team that's CJ struggling.
Such a 180 from his rookie season.
Yeah, it looks like they're built too much finesse. Getting Diggs was the wrong option, obviously hindsight, but they should have tried to shore up their offensive lines. CJ's getting hit too much. The defensive line's not good.
He's getting hit. He's making too much. Oh, he's turning the ball over too much, really.
Well, that's the thing, is he's worried about getting hit. He's just off his game because of what's going on around him. They're building the complete opposite to the Lions and Eagles, which we're showing, like we've said before, that is the way to build a franchise nowadays, is to start with your lines and then go out. Obviously, the Eagles have excellent weapons on the fringe, but the Texans already had weapons, and Tank Dell, they already had the weapons. They didn't need to get Diggs. They should have spent their capital on getting an offensive lineman like the Chargers did with getting Joe Alt. You have to build it from the front backwards, not with your weapons on the outside, because I think it changes your culture. It tries to be a finesse team, and that just doesn't work in the league. It doesn't travel, and against a team like the Titans, it's a physical team with a good defense. It came to show. So lucky they're in a bad division, they were able to get a bit of a head start, but I think they'll be a one and done team. But I definitely regret, if I could have changed my picks in the night before, I definitely would have put the Titans in over the Colts. No regrets over the Cardinals. I think that was just a smart pick, fading the Seahawks at home.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we just yet again bet on the Cardinals on a week where they just decided to not show up.
Exactly.
It's a difficult time betting on the Cardinals, that's for sure.
Yeah, so that puts me, I'm currently at 12-8, and a win for you tomorrow will put you on the exact same as 3-2, so 12-8. So depending on how the Ravens go. I did say that coming into
Tuesday, I had a feeling I'd either be
you
3-1
thought that
or
the Ravens
2-2.
would be the one that would probably take you to the winning
exactly
side.
Where I thought I'd be, to be honest with you.
Yeah. But that's the after the week 12 action. I mean, let's make a. Do you want to touch anything on week 13? Because we got some Thanksgiving games on the Friday, 3 of them.
Basically, I think for me, just the trends are that apparently favourites win on Thanksgiving at a rate that's ridiculous. Like it's the favourites in terms of covering is so outside the norm in general in terms of the stats. So basically, nearly the auto play is just bet the favourites. So you're obviously going to be taking the Lions at a pretty big number.
10.5 right now.
Yeah, I mean the Lions. I mean, do you really anyone bet against the Lions right now? Seems like the worst bet.
Yeah.
Cowboys. It's dangerous betting them as a favourite considering how they played recently. But as we saw this week, the Giants look like a team that's just out. They're just shut up shop. They're done. Whereas the Cowboys feel like they're ascending a little bit. Not ascending as if they're going to be a playoff team, but ascending just. Finally, they might feel, oh my God, we actually won a game. We can start just feeling confident.
I was looking at this line. It was 3.5, and then 5 minutes past, it jumped up to 4.
What's it now?
It back down to 3.
Oh yeah, I like it at 3. I'll definitely be taking the Cowboys at 3.
Yeah, a lot of people must have jumped on the Giants at plus 4.5.
So typically you'd want to take the divisional underdog there, but
yeah.
I said Thanksgiving for whatever reason, it's the trends change. So. And what's the other game?
Miami at Packers.
Yeah, again, you probably
well.
Miami played. We didn't talk about them, but Miami played pretty well today against a Patriots team that's difficult to get, difficult to shrug off.
Yeah,
Miami's since Tua's been back, definitely riding high. I think they're on a 3-game win streak now.
Yeah,
but again, apparently all the trends say you take Green Bay here, even though Love hasn't looked great. They beat a 49ers team today. That just looks like the season's
the one
done.
plus for him is he didn't have any turnovers today.
It's
thankfully.
a plus.
But obviously he didn't have Bosa coming up.
You just worry that it has this win today built them a sort of a false sense where they're basically 4-10 that's missing, Purdy, Trent Williams, Nick Bosa. So they're missing nearly all their key weapons on defense and offense there. But I said it's to kind of go how much you just want to play the trends here, the Thanksgiving trends, and take the Packers at them. I think it's -3.5.
Yeah.
Typically, again, if this was a Sunday game, you'd probably go Miami here +3, but
on a short week.
Yeah, short week, having to travel.
Yeah.
Not that. I mean, I guess it is a bit of a travel actually. Miami to Green Bay is not a quick flight, so maybe it's a bit of a Miami letdown spot here. Could easily see this being a cold game. We know how Tua performs in the cold, right? Lambeau's outdoors, so yeah, I actually kind of I like Green Bay here. I like the Lions and I like the Cowboys, so I'll be following the trends and going the favourites.
Yeah. And then just real quickly, we basically already touched on it, but Raiders at Chiefs.
What's the line on that?
-13.5.
Oh, gosh.
I know what you're going.
Yeah, look, I think the Raiders going to have a QB change. I'm not sure. I think it might be Ritter.
Yes, yeah, Ritter will come in because Minshew is now out with a shoulder injury.
Yeah, that's a risky one, but again, you kind of just got to play the trend here. Raiders play divisional opponents well. They played the Broncos well.
Yeah.
They
usually play the Chiefs well.
really well. If I could easily see the Chiefs losing this game, but I don't think they will. I think you just got to play I think you're a bit silly if you're taking Chiefs -13 here. You take the Raiders plus.
Yeah.
You hope that their defense can get a pass rush from Holmes and just be an ugly game, and you hope that the Chiefs defense is still going to be below average, like below what their standard is, and that the Raiders can. I don't expect them to score heaps of points, but if they can just get to 14-17, I think this could easily be a 30-17 game, and you can even cover that. So
yeah.
This won't be a big bet, but I definitely will.
You probably need the Chiefs to score over 30 to to cover their number.
Yeah. So again, it's kind of similar to the Panthers game. Panthers played well against the Chiefs. Like it's not as if the Chiefs didn't cover because they played poorly. They played okay.
They played
the Chiefs, the Panthers played well.
Yeah.
So you're going to need the Raiders to show up. Otherwise, the Chiefs can, but. Again, you just bet the trends here, and the trends say just take the Raiders.
Yeah. And so that's NFL. I reckon we make a pivot to discussing the new world champion.
Yeah, Max Verstappen,
4-time world champion,
4-time back-to-back world champion, Max Verstappen. I mean,
deserving.
Again, I feel like not that much fanfare. I think people kind of a bit disappointed that he's won again. People are like over it.
That's me and say it's Lewis all over again, right?
Yeah, it's just people. get a bit fatigued of the same person winning. I think a lot of people were a bit disappointed that the championship fight with Norris wasn't closer, that it didn't go down to the wire. And
we thought it was closer, and then we spoke
I
about
thought
it
was closer, and then I realised that it's a little bit game over. But I know, I think I've said before that I think Max doesn't get the credit he deserves. Yeah. He's the best driver of this generation. He is 4 in a row. Yes, they've had the best car, but not this year. And he's shown, having Perez as a teammate this year has shown just how good he is and how he extracts the maximum out of that car every time he gets in it.
Yeah.
He very, very, very rarely has a bad day. And because of that, even though for majority of the races this year, the Red Bull car has been the 3rd best car, he's still been able to probably get results if he was in the 2nd best car. And that's been the difference. If he was coming 6th or 7th instead of 3rd or 4th, he doesn't win the championship this year, I don't think. But because his individual skill as a driver and his consistency and his ability to perform in all conditions, wet, dry, whatever it is, he won it again. So I doubt he will, but I hope he finally starts getting the credit he deserves. How many more does he have to win to start cementing it? I feel like people just don't even care about championships anymore. At the end of the day, 4 championships. This is what you drive for. This was the whole point. And yet people just seem to just gloss over it. I think the Hamilton era has sort of bled into this, where people have just become a bit numb to championships. They just think, the same guy wins it, who cares? That's not how it's supposed to be. The Drivers' Championship is supposed to be the most prestigious award you can win in motorsport.
Yeah.
And yet a guy wins four back-to-back at a pretty young age, and it's like, good on him. Can't wait for next year.
Yeah,
it's just crazy to me, man. I know.
Insane.
I personally can't give Max enough credit, enough props, enough respect. And I'm sure all the motorsport enthusiasts out there giving him too. But I think the general public are a little fatigued at Max winning. And I think next year is going to be an excellent year. I think it's going to be wide open. Anyone could win it next year. It's going to be an excellent season. But I think this probably the end of the Max epoch in terms of dominating like this. If he wins it again, it'll have to be, I think it'll be a tight one. I don't think they'll run away with it. And I don't think Red Bull are probably on the decline compared to other teams.
But this is the last year before those new regulations come through, right? In 2026?
I'm not sure.
I think so.
Wow. Like I said, I think this year's going to be excellent. I think the field is going to be so tight. We've had enough years of this regulations where all the teams have sort of copied most of the cars, or at least been able to figure out what other teams are doing. So the teams are very close at the top.
Yeah.
You saw Mercedes today with the fastest by a mile. Next race could be Ferrari the fastest, McLaren the fastest. Red Bull haven't been the fastest in a while now, but you expect them to make some leaps for next year. You have to think they would have started working on next year's car very early.
Yeah.
So next year, going to any given Sunday, any team can win, which will be excellent for the fans and for the championship battle. There should be many horses in that race till the end. Hopefully, something we haven't seen for a while.
Yeah.
And hopefully that'll put a bit more prestige back into the Drivers' Championship, because right now I just feel like people just don't care, which is crazy, because in any other world Max would be lauded as one of the best of all time, yet no one's really having that conversation, when I personally think that conversation should be had, that he's on the Mount Rushmore of F1 drivers.
I mean, you look at performances like he did in Brazil in that way.
Exactly.
That's the sort of stuff that sort of
that cemented the championship for him. That literally is what won,
and put you above the competition as well.
Yeah, for me, I think he's on the Mount Rushmore. I think I would probably have Max, Lewis, Senna and Schumacher. I would say for me is my Mount Rushmore. Again, I think a lot of people, it's hard to put a contemporary on Mount Rushmore, because you have the bias of personality. Sort of, we've spoken before, that is a bit of a prickly personality. That is he's not the most likable character for a lot of people. And of course, what happened with his first championship against Lewis in Abu Dhabi, a lot of people have been off him since then.
Yeah. They
blame him for that. A lot of people who are Lewis fans just don't want to give Max the credit. They sort of hold that grudge. So maybe when it's all said and done, you'll look back and go, wow, he is one of the greatest. Yeah. But in the moment, I don't think many people would put him on the Mount Rushmore, but I think he's solidified himself that he's on there. And how many people have won four back-to-back? It's got to be a very short list. So, credit to Max. It was a poor race, but...
It was, pretty much dominated by Mercedes.
Russell literally controlled that the entire time.
And then Hamilton finishes P2, but that was just a poor qualifying showing, and he starts 10th on the grid, and then
good result though.
Yeah, works his way through, wins driver of the day. So it was a good day for the Mercedes. And so you come down to these last two races where you're looking at the construction
McLaren v Ferrari,
yeah, you got McLaren on 608 and then Ferrari on 584. So
It's up for grabs.
24 points between them.
It's huge. If Ferrari will be sort of thinking we probably should have maybe had a car in front of Lewis yesterday, just because they had the position and they gave it away with poor strategy. I don't think they did very well. Mercedes had the better car, but I think if they performed their strategy better, they could have finished ahead of Lewis.
Yeah.
The next 2 races are going to be massive.
Pretty
McLaren,
much similar circuits.
McLaren
as
just
well.
need to be like level. They don't need to do anything crazy. They just need to keep finishing up top. Ferrari need to probably win a race or have both cars in the top 3. Obviously, they need to finish ahead of both McLarens. And McLaren has looked real poor this weekend. Their car was probably the 4th fastest car, which hasn't been that for weeks, months. So it'll be interesting to see where the cars sit. As you said, the tracks are pretty similar for the next 2 races. So whatever happens in this next race will probably be indicative of what's going to happen in the last race.
And hearing from what Lewis and George were saying, like they weren't expecting this sort of.
I would be surprised if
weekend,
Mercedes are that quick. I think it might have just been one of those track specific advantages. But my money at the moment will still be on McLaren, just because I think their car will be better than it was at Vegas. But I just hope it's a close finish. I hope it goes down to that last race, and we can during the race they're like, if he finishes there, he's finishing there, and I hope so, because it'll make it
add a bit more spice.
Because we haven't had even just a fight for the constructors or the drivers' championship since the Lewis Max fight. Like it's been wrapped up weeks early. Previously, and the only reason it's not this year is because Perez just is one of the worst drivers on the grid.
Yeah,
I mean, again, crashes out in Q1. Sorry, he's just
he'll be there next year too.
No, surely not.
I think they've already named him.
Red Bull deserve everything they get.
They've said that they're sticking
if
with
they
him.
stick with Perez, they deserve everything they get. Like you can't reward mediocrity.
Yeah, it has to be the sponsors that he's bringing in or something along those lines. Like I don't.
Or he
has
some dirt on Horner or something, because how? Like,
that's some conspiracy stuff there.
He is quite literally the reason that Red Bull are coming third. Like you had the driver win the drivers' championship, and yet you're going to come third in the constructors. Like that is. It's ridiculous, and that the fact they're going to reward him with another year, like, what does the results matter? Like, why does anything matter? Like, you just, maybe Red Bull have become so accustomed they don't really care. Maybe there's other things going on. Maybe they're distracted. Maybe, as you said, there's sponsorships or ulterior incentives to keep him. But at the end of the day, surely the drives and what you do on track has to matter. But apparently, Red Bull just don't care. So they deserve what's coming.
Definitely. I mean, if you want to clutch for straws in excitement, there's a 6th place battle in the championship going down between Haas, Alpine, and RB. There's about 4 points between 3 of them.
Wow, that could be interesting. See who gets
That's
sneaks
for
in.
6th place. Yeah.
I think it's like $10 million or something. So it's pretty important. Yeah. But no, be interesting couple races. Credit to Max. Great result.
Congratulations, Max.
Yeah, I hope you're watching.
He's definitely watching.
Yeah, definitely watching.
Call
into the show. We'll get an interview.
100%. I don't know. Do you want to end with some APL?
Yeah, just quickly touch on City. I mean, man, 4-0 loss. Our next game's against Liverpool, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Sort of wake us up. Kind of have to win that now. Like, if we lose that, I think what's the difference at the moment? Like 11 points at the moment?
I think it's still only like single points. I'm pretty sure it's 8 or something. I can double check that.
I thought it was like 8 before this week.
Oh, was it? Maybe. Let me double check. It's 8 points.
It's 8 points.
Yeah, we're 31. You guys are 23.
Okay, well, if we win this one, obviously it's only 5, and then that's like, that's not too bad. If we lose this, then it goes up to 11.
Don't go writing yourselves off just at 8 points. Like, Man City's Man City. Liverpool's
I know,
Liverpool.
but things that we don't lose 4-0 at home.
That was it. Yeah,
things are different.
That game was. You had a lot of mistakes at the back and a lot of errors with not tracking the man. Like, there was I think 2 of those goals they just snuck in behind.
Who are we missing?
Rodri.
I don't know how many times I have to say it. He's the most important player in our team, and again, we missed him every game this year. And there's no coincidence that we're leaking goals left, right, and centre. No. Rodri's our most important player. The fact that we're missing him, you're showing what's happening. Our attack, we had more expected goals than Tottenham. We just hit the bar, couldn't get them in. But that's what happens. And when you let in 4 goals, you can't be annoyed at expected. It's not as if you lost 1-0 and you had 2 more expected goals. Yeah. You lose 4-0. The stats are irrelevant. You lost 4-0.
Yeah.
And it's not a flash in the pan. We've been poor for multiple weeks now. Pep said that in his interview that we're not used to it, that it's, we're going to have to see what we can do, how we can change this. Got Liverpool next. It's going to be a very interesting match.
Very.
Again, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, the fact that we're versing Liverpool. we're going to have to pull our finger out. Hopefully that they now have a bit of urgency and they'll play hard. But at the end of the day, maybe we're just not that good right now. Maybe it's not a matter of mentality. It's not a matter of all this stuff. Maybe as a unit, in terms of the midfield and the defense, are just not playing well enough and leaking too many goals. And in the attack, we're just not clinical enough, not lethal enough. So all in all, it's probably the worst City have looked in since Pep has really been here, I'd say.
Yeah.
So I know as a Liverpool fan and Arsenal fans out there, you're going, oh yeah, we're not believing this, right? It's been years of feeling like
Domination
City are going to
stuff.
drop, and every time City drops a few points, all of a sudden they'll go on a 20-game run where they don't drop points. So I think fans of other teams are very hesitant to write them off. But as a City fan, I promise you that they are a different team this year. They will not get 90 points. I reckon they're going to struggle maybe to get 85 points this year. So if Liverpool and Arsenal can just be consistent, keep getting points, the door is open to win it this year. I don't think City's going to go on a 20-game run where they just win everything and don't drop a point. I think missing Rodri takes that out. I think we're going to leak too many goals. And when you leak goals, that's when you can lose results, because scoring goals in the Premier League is difficult. It's not easy just to score, even with Haaland. It's not easy just to score 3-4 goals every week. So if we're letting in 3 goals to nearly anyone, that's not a recipe to win a lot of games. So Liverpool for sure, the box seat right now. Massive game coming up. That's going to probably be, I don't want to say the most important game because it's still so early in the league, like in the season. But in the grand scheme of things, that is massive for mentality. Like if Liverpool win that, they'll feel like they can go on and do it. Yeah. And once your belief changes and once that sort of mentality changes, that's big for them. They've done it before. Like a lot of the players, Van Dijk, the captain, Alisson, Salah, they've done it before. They know what it takes, and they'll feel it within the building, within the fan base, that if they beat City this week, it's really on. Now that comes with pressure, right? Feeling like the title's 100%. There, but they've got that experience there where I feel like they can deal with that pressure and use it as fuel and motivation to keep being consistent. Like even yesterday, I had a tough game against Southampton. I bet on Southampton as a draw because I just thought Liverpool might be looking ahead to City and might lose a bit of concentration. Southampton gave them a good run for their money. They missed a penalty. Probably should have been a draw, but Liverpool like what they do. I said, as a opponent of Liverpool, it's just clinical. That's just what they do. They score these late goals.
We're not looking 100%.
No, you're not.
Like the goal that we obviously we stopped the penalty, but then they scored the rebound. But the second goal, you see 3 of our defenders go to one man and one guy's left open. Like it's just lack of communication there that can sometimes happen.
So you're doing what
we're not we're not a well-oiled machine. So it's definitely not over.
But you're doing what City have done the last few years, where even when you don't look great and you're letting goals, you get the result at the end. Whereas at the moment, City are in a spot where when that's just not happening, right? And obviously, it's not that many games, like something like 3 or 4 in a row. But I said this has just not happened under Pep. Typically, when we have a bad loss, we bounce back and smoke the team next week. And I think that's what a lot of people expected against Tottenham. I think Tottenham was paying $6 to win, which I thought was ridiculous considering how City's playing. Like the odds makers still had City like $1.30 favourite, which is like you can tell that people keep expecting City to just bounce back. I just don't think people are actually watching City and have watched them enough previously in previous years to be able to tell the difference in how they're playing this year versus how they're playing this year. The previous year to this year, and it's night and day. There is a massive difference in the way they're playing, the confidence. Some players are getting older, like De Bruyne and such are getting a little bit older, and as you said, the defense is just leaking goals left, right, and center.
Anything else you wanted to touch on?
No, that's pretty good. I mean, I kind of want to have a look and see if the cricket is still going. If we can put a final bow on it. I think it is. Yep, it's done. All out for 238. So India win by 440 runs.
Congratulations, India.
That is a massive win. Carry out for 36, Stark for 12. So congratulations, India. 440 run win in the first match. I don't think anyone predicted that. Even if India won, I thought most people thought it'd be a close match. For Australia to lose in the West, it's difficult for opposing teams to go to the West and to play on that pitch with bounce. Our bowlers and batters are used to it. India just came in. Obviously, in the first innings, had a few struggles with the bat, but every other inning since then, the first innings with the ball, second innings with the bat, second innings with the ball, they dominated. So credit to them, and it's going to be a great rest of the series. Australia's going to have to fight back and hopefully give them a run for their money.
Definitely. So it's another 2 weeks until Adelaide.
Yeah, it's annoying. I wish it was next week.
To see the response from the Australian cricket team, but to all our American viewers out there, happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving. It's a shame we don't celebrate that here, honestly. It seems like a great holiday over there.
But hey,
apparently avoid the airports.
Yeah. once Thanksgiving's done, put up the Christmas decorations.
Yeah, Christmas decoration. Maybe we can do something here, like put a little Christmas tree
a
up.
little Christmas tree.
Yeah, I reckon. Get one of those like desk ones.
Do a little gift giving episode as well.
Yeah. Man, now you're thinking.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, why not, bro?
I like it.
I have to start putting my brain to it.
How are you with gifts usually?
Are
you a gift giver?
Whatever Amazon's got.
Yeah.
Get some.
Online only.
We get some like tinsel. You know what I mean, or something.
Yeah,
so,
I think so.
I mean, at the moment, what do we got? We got a Tiger, El Tigre,
Yeah.
Saints helmet.
Saints helmet.
Apparently they're a good bet this week. I've heard through the grapevine, so we'll talk about that next week. And then some F1 cars: Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull. McLaren.
4.
Yeah, so definitely. I think
I
Christmas
could get you
decorations
maybe
is the well.
I could get you maybe a McLaren one to put here.
Yeah, maybe
Get the
after.
set.
Maybe after Christmas. I reckon we.
Maybe once they win the championship.
Oh yeah, maybe that'll be the way.
Yeah.
But definitely Christmas
it.
decorations on the way. I think that'll add some spice.
Definitely. So we appreciate you guys listening.
See you all Saturday.
See you all next time.
Laters.